deliciously with Ara. Today we're gonna make CHADOL Dwenjangjjigae. To subscribe and like! Lately, I've noticed that a lot of us really like the Korean barbecue, you know, the mga ginigrill na mga karne. This CHADOL Dwenjangjjigae is a perfect stew that really complements. And when you go to Korea, pag pumunta kayo sa mga Korean barbecue places, this is actually the stew that they serve you. So we're gonna be using the Dwenjang or the Korean soybean paste as our basis. And also we're gonna use the beef brisket cut. Here in the Philippines, actually, you can get the sukiyaki cut, which is yung manipis na karne. The fatty part is actually more juicier. So I would suggest that we use the matabang karne ng baka and mas manipis, which is better. Because CHADOL basically means parang it's the very thin beef brisket cut that we use parang ihaw-ihaw, which we do a lot of Koreans love. Now we're gonna make this into a stew, and not only that, we're gonna add also Ssamjang just to give a little bit of a kick to our very wonderful dish now, which is very easy to make as well. So now, before we start, this is around 200 grams of CHADOL or the beef brisket. Some groceries, pwede kayo bumili ng sukiyaki cut or the shabu-shabu cut. Yung basta yung manipis lang dapat. Ngayon, I'm gonna cut into a little bit of a bite size lang. So I got here yung beef brisket na manipis sukiyaki cut. So I'm gonna cut into siguro mga 2 to 3 inches. And of course, di ba yung karne, once it cooks, parang nag-shrink siya. So ayoko na masyadong maniit, ayoko na masyadong malaki. Just parang 1 scoop, parang that's how we want it. So siguro this thickness, isang daliri length of a 2 to 3 inches is good. And as you can see, parang dami niyang taba, but don't worry because this is what makes the secret of our CHADOL Dwenjangjjigae. Basically, we're gonna set this aside first, my beef. And then I'm gonna prepare also our vegetables. All assorted vegetables is okay. You can use whatever you have. Kung meron kayo kalabasa, that's very good. But today I'm gonna use some potatoes, tofu, onions, and some enoki mushrooms, and this is zucchini. Pero of course, don't stress out kung wala kayong mga exactly the same vegetables that you have. What is also good to add, which I don't have right now, is also radish and also kalabasa. Those two really complements the Dwenjang or the Korean miso. But before I continue cutting off my vegetables, babawalawan ko muna ang aking chopping board. Stay tuned! So always be careful to avoid cross-contamination. Kailangan talaga balawan natin, especially you're coming from meat to vegetables. Now, my potatoes, meron ako here dalawa. If wala kayong potato, meron kayong kalabasa, this is also good. For kalabasa, siguro you just have to use same amount ng volume of your beef. Or it's really up to you. If you want more vegetables, why not, diba? So this I'm gonna cut it into parang small cubes or parang medyo malalaking manipis na hiwa. So I have here 1 whole big spring onions. Tanggalin ko lang yung mga root part. And then the white part, I'm gonna use this for my stew. And then mag-iiwan ako ng siguro mga konting hand length just for a garnish later on. Ngayon, for the one na i-add ko sa soup, we can cut it medyo matabang cuts. Siguro like an inch thickness. And for my zucchini, I'm not gonna use all kasi medyo malaki. Gagamit ako na siguro ng half lang. Ngayon, kung wala kayong zucchini, don't worry, hindi kailangan. Pwede nyo kayo mag-replace with a radish if you have. Ngayon, isasama ko siya sa aking onions. So I have already prepared all my ingredients except for my tofu, which pwede ko na hiwain ngayon or mamaya na lang because actually madali naman siya maluto, so I'm just gonna do it later on pag kumulo na yung aking soup. First, we really have to cook our meat. And actually, when you make this CHADOL Dwenjangjjigae, the aroma of this is parang nakaka-engganyo kumain. And you know, I'm pretty sure that the whole kitchen would smell so tasty that for sure lahat ng mga family niyo, they'll come thinking baka mag-Korean barbecue na kayo sa house. Watch and see what I mean. So now first, kuha kayo ng isang kaldero. So I'm gonna turn on the fire first and then iinitin ko muna yung ating pot na lulutuan natin. So now I can feel na medyo mainit yung ating kaldero. We're gonna start cooking our beef brisket or sukiyaki cut. The reason na kailangan ko initin muna yung ating pot is para hindi dumikit yung ating karne. And when you cook the beef, kailangan isa-isayin natin because of the protein of it. Pag lahat to sabay-sabay natin, baka didikit-dikit siya. Kailangan talaga we have to be masipag na hiwalayin natin sila. And you know what? The smell of this, I wish you can also stay here with me in my kitchen. Ang bango-bango na. I'm gonna turn my fire sa medium. And then mag-a-add tayo ng sesame oil, 1 tablespoon. And then keep stirring it na hindi sila didikit-dikit. The reason I add sesame oil is because yung sesame oil, when it adds to the meat, parang it helps lumalabas yung parang, it helps eliminate yung parang medyo malansang smell of the karne. And also parang nagbo-boost up siya ng parang juiciness of the flavor, nagbo-boost ng flavor. And the reason is I want to parang loosen up yung mga taba ng ating beef para ito yung magiging base ng ating sabaw, which is gonna be very, very rich in the flavor. So medium fire lang until our beef gets very brownish. You know, I'm sure at this stage, your family will come and say, baka you're doing the barbecue and baka maingganyo sila, just keep on eating the meat. But you have to control ourselves because the flavor of this, yung mga oil na lumalabas, it's amazing when you make it into a stew. So now you can see na very mabilis talaga siya maluto because manipis na yung karne. And when I can see na medyo naglumalabas na yung oil ng ating beef, I'm gonna add in my spring onions. Still sa medium fire kasi I don't want to parang burn it. Pero gusto ko lang talaga maluto together all the flavors. Just give it a toss. And once our green onions are medyo coated in the beef oil, and turn your fire sa low kasi madali talaga siya masunog. And then we need to get our Dwenjang, which is a Korean soybean paste. I've actually seen that it is very much accessible in a lot of the Korean groceries or even local supermarkets. Basta brown ang ating color, which is the soybean paste or Dwenjang. I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons. Parang generous amount of my spoon lang. Whatever spoon you have is fine. Basta uniform ang gagamitin natin throughout. So 3 tablespoons. And then, on the low fire, ita-toss natin siya. So, Dwenjang, because it's fermented, the soybean, when we stir-fried sa oil or initin natin muna siya sa parang ganito, what it helps is parang nakakatanggal siya ng parang this fermented smell na hindi siguro masyadong marami ang nakakagusto. And also, when we stir-fried first, it boosts up this rich flavor of all the fermented soybeans. And then lumalabas yung pagkatamis ng konti. So better stir-fry sa low fire lang. And be careful na hindi siya masusunod kasi talaga when it's fermented, madali talaga siya dumikit sa ating pot. And you can see that our oil, the beef oil, is parang medyo maganda yung color niya, parang may pagka-orange na because of our soybean paste. Now I'm gonna add in my water. So I'm gonna add around 500 milliliters or around 2 cups, which is good for around 3 to 4 servings. And then let's mix it all together. Mamelt ko ng konti. And I'm gonna add in my onions and my zucchini. And also my potatoes kasi mahirap medyo maluto yung ating potatoes because of the starchiness of it and medyo matigas. Now, if add kayo ng mga radish or other vegetables like squash, pwede ngayon na rin kayo maglagay except for the tofu and our mushrooms mamaya. And I'm gonna cover it habang maluto talaga siya na magbuboil hanggang maluto yung ating mga vegetables. Must try recipe! So now my vegetables are boiling. Pinakulo ko siya siguro around mga 10 minutes na. I'm gonna add in my garlic. Actually, this garlic, pwede kayo mag-add kanina when you added your onions. But for me, I want the flavor of the garlic to still be there. Kaya gusto ko medyo may konting kick ng garlic, so I'm just gonna add now. But kung medyo naaanghang kayo sa garlic, you can just add it together sabay ng onions. That way, you will not feel the spiciness of it. So I'm gonna add one very generous amount of my minced garlic. And of course, just to give a little bit of a kick, I'm gonna add 1/3 tablespoon of my chili powder or gochugaru. This one, pwede omit nyo na lang kung ayaw nyo ng spicy food. And for the secret touch of my Dwenjangjjigae, I'm gonna use Ssamjang, which is this one. It comes in color green. So when you go to like groceries, meron kayong mga iba't ibang colors ng fermented Korean fermented soybean, which is the Dwenjang in brown. The red is the gochujang, which is the spicy one, and Ssamjang, the green one normally, which is the mixture between your gochujang and Dwenjang. So I'm gonna use this Ssamjang, which is also very popular sa mga Korean barbecues as your dip. This is gonna be our secret kick to our soup. So I'm gonna add just around one generous, parang generous amount of my tablespoon of my Ssamjang. And just for the flavor to really like come together, I always use my sugar instead of using an MSG, which could be also a secret tip for your kitchen. Adding sugar to your food, of course, it gives the sweetness of it, but parang binubuo niya yung buong flavors. So I always like to add my sugar, konti lang naman. So around 1/3 tablespoon. And then let's just keep on boiling it. Now, at this phase, you can already taste your soup. Tikman nyo na lang. And then, if you feel na medyo bland ng konti, gusto nyo ng alat, don't adjust the flavor using salt, but you adjust using your more Dwenjang. But actually, for me, this is already a perfect taste level na. So I'm just gonna keep as it is. But of course, for all Dwenjang soups talaga siya. If you're gonna adjust the flavor, always use Dwenjang. And now we're gonna cut our tofu para we can already cook. Kasi medyo naluto na yung ating mga potatoes. It's super masarap. So now I'm gonna cut my tofu, which pwede nyo na i-cut kanina pa, but because madali lang talaga maluto yung tofu, I just wanna cut it pag medyo luto na yung ating mga ingredients. I'm gonna cut them in small cubes or small rectangles. We're gonna add to our stew na rin. For those who want to have this additional level of kick ng spice, you can always add one siling sigang, they call this sa palengke. Any kind of green chili you have. Of course, kung ayaw nyo ng manghang, no need. And if you have children in the house, better wag na kayo mag-add ng sili kasi baka masyado maging spicy na. But just for a little bit of a kick lang, I'm gonna cut this parang paslant. Add my sili na rin. And yung kanyang tinirang kong spring onions, the green part, for my garnish, I'm just gonna cut them also, maliliit lang. Pampa-add lang ng color. So at this moment, this is already good to be served kasi as long as the potatoes and your vegetables are cooked, if you added radish, kailangan maluto talaga yung radish kasi those yung mga matitigas ng ating mga gulay. And tofu, madilis naman talaga siya. You can already serve as this. Of course, if you want the salo-salo style as a family, this is good enough. But if you have like visitors or a little bit of parang mukhang mas special, more Korean look, and you have this kind of a clay pot, the tteokbaegi, I'm gonna transfer my stew sa tteokbaegi. Must-try recipe! Tada! Here is my 차돌된장찌개. And as you've seen, kung mag-serve kayo using a tteokbaegi like this, after magkuha kayo ng konti with their sandok, give a little bit of a boil, and then dahil the tteokbaegi can retain the heat, then we can add the enoki mushrooms. If not, kung kakain kayo as the caldero that we did kanina, just add the mushrooms on your last touch with some garnish of the spring onions and a little bit of a sili if you want. So here it is. Very simple, but I'm sure the taste is not simple. It's very, very good. I'm pretty sure the whole family would love it. So hope you enjoy my recipe. See you next time, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye everyone! It's super masarap. Let's try our 차돌된장찌개. So rich in flavors, and of course, best paired with white rice, right? A lot of people say kanin is life. So here we go on a very hot bowl of rice. Wow! I think medyo mainit kasi the tteokbaegi really retains the heat of it. Too much carne, I forgot my rice. So again, let's try with the tofu and my vegetables. Perfect, perfect. Words cannot express. Words cannot express. Words cannot express. And you know what? The beef, Di ba na-stir fry natin siya kanina? So it has this very parang aromatic na hindi siya malansa. You would experience the real richness of the beef. Nagme-melt siya sa soup. Very, very good. I'm pretty sure you'll all love it. So hope you enjoy my recipe. See you next time!